But it also taught me that life is short and it could change at any moment in time. You really don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. When you get down to the basics, to figuring out what it is that you really want to focus on and why you want to do that, I mean, everything else, figuring out how to make it happen, the rest of it, it comes so easily.
Welcome to Dive into Health MD, the podcast where we explore how everyday habits shape your physical, cognitive, and financial well-being. Through conversations with physicians, scientists, and farmers, we explore how daily choices like food, movement, sleep, and mindset shape the health and life we experience, with special episodes on sourcing high-quality food ingredients. We do our best to stay up to date, and we're always open to refining our thinking as new knowledge emerges. I'm your host, Dr. Akshita Mehta. Let's dive in.
Hello, hello. I am so excited to have you on Dive into Health MD today. We are joined by Dr. Olga Deengar, one of my friends who is starting an incredible company and has done so many wonderful things. So thanks for joining us today. I'm excited to have you on.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me, Akshita.
Yes, absolutely. Can you tell the listeners a little bit about who you are and all the fun things that you're up to?
Yeah, of course. So my name is Dr. Olga Deengar. I'm a hospitalist, internal medicine trained. I'm licensed both in the US and Canada. I work as a locum hospitalist in Toronto, Canada. And other than my physician clinical work, I also have my own life coaching business called Coach Olga MD. So I'm a life coach for women physicians and professionals. I help them gain their energy, clarity, and purpose, especially those that feel really stuck and burnt out from all of their clinical work. There's always a way to find a balance. And I do this using my DAMA framework. It's a coaching framework that I've created to help you set and achieve the goals that you want in any area of your life. So DAMA stands for driven, aligned, building momentum, and taking action. I also have a DAMA club. It's an exclusive community on WhatsApp with extraordinary women doing incredible things. And I also have a newsletter that I release every week and share one of my personal stories from the week. So a lot of different things going on. And of course, I have the Coffee Playdate Podcast, which I had a pleasure of having you on, Akshita. And that podcast is to help aspire budding entrepreneurs to really help them figure out what mindset shifts they need to take and different challenges that existing entrepreneurs go through to help build their businesses. So lots of different things going on. More importantly, though, I'm a mom of 3 boys who are 6, 3, and 1 years old. And I'm married to a pulmonologist, a critical care specialist, and we love traveling the world together.
Amazing. Yeah, we met at a conference last year, so maybe like 6 or 7 months ago or so. And I feel like since then, things have grown so much and so many things have exploded, and your coaching and your business and your podcast. And it's been so much fun to watch and to see how many incredible things that you're doing at one time. So Dive in Health MD is really focused on helping people learn about some life choices or think about their daily habits that can help maintain life over time. So health is built in the choices that we make every day. If someone followed you around for a day, what would surprise them most?
Things that would surprise someone who followed me would probably be that I'm very consistent and intentional with the time that I spend on deep focus work. So every morning between 5 and 6 in the morning before the kids get up, I wake up and right away I sit down and do my kind of my deepest focused work. So I call it like the flow state. You've heard of that before. And this gives me an opportunity to get the things out of the way that are very important, but may not be so urgent. So really helps me kind of get those creative juices flowing, come up with some new ideas for my business or for just even fun things that I want to do with my family. And that's really an opportunity for me to get that out of the way first in the beginning of my day. So I try to do that every single day. Of course, I may miss a day or two, but I get right back on it the following day. And another thing that could surprise someone would be that I try to exercise every day or at least 5 times a week. And exercise is one of those priorities for me that I time block in my calendar because it's so important to take care of your health. We all know that as physicians. So I try to do 3 runs a week and then 2 days of more resistance training. And I think those would be the major areas.
The morning hour is awesome. How do you do that with a 1-year-old?
Well, the 1-year-old does keep me up at night, but yeah, some nights I don't end up waking up that early. So I probably miss one morning a week, but then I try to make up for it by carving out 1 hour at the end of my day to try and do all of the focused work then. It is tricky. It is tricky, and it takes a lot of kind of, I would say, discipline.
Yeah.
Be your own kind of sergeant and say, hey, like, this is my time. I need to get this work done because if I don't, then
Mhm.
it's going to pile up and I'm not going to be able to catch up throughout the day. And then at the end of the week, you're stuck with all of these tasks on your to-do list that you really wanted to get done but couldn't. So you just have to make the time for it and carve out that 1 hour. And it's only an hour. You don't have to spend like 3-4 hours doing the defocused work. You just carve out that 1 hour and stay consistent. That's the biggest key.
Yeah, that's awesome. So that are those usually smaller tasks that just need to get done, like sending out emails or some logistics related to the business, or are those bigger picture ideas?
Usually they're bigger picture ideas, although those smaller, more kind of annoying tasks that you do need to get done end up creeping up into that hour, like getting my bookkeeping done for my tax filing. It's important to get that done. Not super urgent, but it is important. So I do put that in the magic hour, but I like to try and come up with new ideas about, let's say, collaborations that I think would be really valuable throughout my business, or new podcast guests that I want to invite on, or just activities that I want to do over the weekend with my family that I think would be really meaningful. For example, doing a beach cleanup. That would be really fun because the boys get to contribute to the community by picking up all of the trash on the beach. And also we get to spend some time together and enjoy the waves of the ocean. We live here in Florida, so it's a lot of fun.
Amazing. So cool. So let's get into your story. Can you tell me a little bit about what it's like to be a hospitalist?
Yeah, so I used to be a full-time hospitalist. Right out of residency, I started my full-time hospitalist job in rural Connecticut, so in a very small community hospital. And it was a lot of work, of course, when you're just fresh out of residency. You're working like 70 hours a week, even though on paper it looks like 40. You're getting used to the new electronic medical record system, really figuring out what your workflow looks like throughout the day. And then once you get the hang of things, you kind of start looking at other opportunities and other things that are out there that you could be a part of. I was getting involved with different committees in the hospital and also working with medical students from our local medical school. And that was a lot of fun. And then I just kept thinking, well, is this really it? I mean, is there anything more than this? And I wasn't feeling 100% aligned with my core values and my goals of what I really truly wanted to do, but I didn't know what I was really passionate about outside of my clinical work. So it was actually a breaking point in my life where when my husband got a really great job in Florida and we made the move here in 2024, that I kind of had to pause and take a step back, because now I was going from being a full-time hospitalist to a full-time stay-at-home mom, which was a big identity shift for me. I didn't even know what kind of household tasks I needed to do because I never had to really do all of them, and all of these new roles and responsibilities have come up in this transition. So this was a tough place for me to shift into. And what really helped is that the Ontario Medical Association, they assigned a life coach to me. And she helped me every week figure out how I can make a smoother transition into being a stay-at-home mom. I mean, I guess it sounds a little crazy for some people. They're like, you have so much free time now. What do you mean you don't want to be a full-time stay-at-home mom? But it was just hard because I was coming from a place of being a full-time employee in the hospital. So as we went through all of the different mindset tools, I really figured out how to apply the cognitive behavioral model in my own life. And that's what my life coach helped me see through. So really looking at a situation that you're faced with and changing your thoughts around it. Once you change your thoughts around it, you're able to subsequently get the feelings from that and then the actions and the results that follow. So by changing your thinking, you can actually change your outcome. And this like blew my mind. I was like, what? I have control over my life? So this was so exciting for me. And I worked through this, and I was reading all of these different personal growth and development books and listening to different audiobooks and podcasts and really helping expand my knowledge in the life coaching world. And then in 2025, after I delivered my third son, I fell very sick. I had a bloodstream infection after the delivery, and I stayed in the hospital for 4 nights, 5 days on all sorts of different broad spectrum IV antibiotics. And it really put things into perspective for me because I was no longer the doctor who's treating the patient. I was actually the patient going through the whole process, the illness, the diagnosis, the treatment plan. And I didn't like it. I felt like I was trapped. I felt like I didn't have a lot of options or choices. I had to stay and wait for the blood cultures to result. All I wanted to do was just be home with my newborn and my family. But it also taught me that life is short and it could change at any moment in time. You really don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. And just seeing that, um, it helped me refocus on what I truly want to do and what I want to follow, which is my passion. So I got certified as a life coach, and I decided to help others transform their lives like I had to transform mine, because there's so much power in life coaching. When you get down to the basics, to figuring out what it is that you really want to focus on and why you want to do that, I mean, everything else, figuring out how to make it happen, the rest of it, it comes so easily. So that's why now I'm a life coach for women physicians and professionals, and I use the DAMA framework, which has been a transformational strategy for myself and my clients.
That's amazing. I'm so sorry. I didn't know that happened to you. That's so hard, especially with a newborn, even without a newborn. But to put a newborn on top of that, I'm so sorry. And I'm glad that you were able to go home and be healthy and now can do all of this amazing work. And yeah, what an interesting time of life. You talked about transitioning from full-time hospitalist medicine to stay-at-home mom. And it's hard. And I was hearing someone else talk about this as well. And she was an emergency medicine physician. I'm trying to remember where I heard this story, but was so used to for such a long time dealing with big decisions, right? Like, and getting very comfortable making decisions a snap of a moment, knowing what's best and consolidating a lot of information. And then she would go home to her like 4-year-old and 6-year-old and have a fight about how to put on socks. And it just felt so out of control. And I think this is maybe more of a common theme than we realize. These, physicians that are just so used to functioning at a really high level and doing really incredible things. And I mean, I myself had experiences like this too, where I found myself feeling so flustered changing a diaper on a wiggly toddler. And I was like, I am more calm when I'm doing spine procedures on someone. And I can think through that much clearer, but it
Yeah.
was so easy to be flustered for something that seemed way more less important. But this does seem to be a common theme. And, ultimately what she ended up doing was creating this business to help women create systems at home. And in the hospital and through training, we have all of these systems that help us mitigate whatever comes up. And we have training to deal with the unexpected. And every step of the way, there's something that we can fall back on. And there's also usually a team. At home, there are no systems. It's you and unpredictable children. And they are unpredictable on purpose, and that's what they should be doing. And so really hard, I think, to go through that shift. They're very different skills and completely different environments. So thanks for sharing that. So you were a hospitalist for a long time. You were full-time for a while. Now you're still working as locums. Are there things that you see over and over again, or anything that you want to talk about that you see in the hospital system, and life choices that maybe people could think about at home to maybe try and mitigate some stuff that brings people into the hospital?
Yeah, that's a great question. So in the hospital, one of the places that I work as a locum hospitalist is actually at a rehab facility. So the patients come from having just had hip surgery or knee surgery, and they're in this physical rehabilitation program for about 6 weeks. So they live in this facility and they do daily physical therapy. And then as the physicians on staff, we take care of all of their other problems, chronic problems like their diabetes, hypertension, and manage all of those other things. So it's a little bit more of like a geriatrics role in that setting. But I love working in this place because this is actually one of the few opportunities that we have as physicians to really make a difference for our patients, really help them and encourage them and help support them through this journey. You see them every day or almost every day, and you get to see their progress, which is not something that you always see when you're out in the community or working in a busy hospital. So it's really important to build that rapport with them and try to just encourage them. These small words go a really long way. You could tell them, I know you're going to do a lot better today and get much stronger today than you did yesterday. Just giving that little bit of support, you could see incredible exponential progress in their physical rehabilitation. And I've gotten to know a lot of really amazing people that came through as my patients through the facility. And even now, they still email me and say, hey, Dr. Deengar, you really helped me through this really challenging time in my life. Thank you for your kind words. And it's not just what you do for them medically, giving the right medications and all of that, but even just the small gestures of holding their hand when they're having a tough moment or spending a little bit of extra time listening to how their day went.
Yeah.
So those small things go a long way.
Yeah. Amazing. What about before that hospital event occurs? Is there anything that you want people to think about to try and mitigate a potential hospital stay?
Absolutely. If there is something that you can do to prevent hospitalization on a bigger grand scheme of things, it's take care of your health. So, really focusing on your physical fitness, your nutrition, and your sleep. I mean, those are like the biggest things that you can do for yourself. For physical fitness, you have to make sure that you're doing both cardio and strength training because we know that there's substantial health benefits when you're doing both and do it regularly. Don't just say, I'm going to work out once a week. Start slow, but build up to a routine that you're comfortable with and that you're consistently doing. Making it a habit is so key. With nutrition, I mean, you talk a lot about nutrition and figuring out where your food comes from, making the right choices when you're at the supermarket, but really nourishing your body with all of the nutrients and minerals that it needs. And then with sleep, getting enough sleep, going to bed on time early so that you can get to actually falling asleep at a good time. And if you're an early morning person like me, you could do your magic hour in the first hour of your day. But even if not, just make sure you're getting the right amount of sleep that you need, making it a consistent habit to go to bed early and get all of the hours in. That's going to improve your energy throughout your day.
Yeah. And there's a lot of ties there, right, with chronic disease. Really, these daily choices, getting enough sleep really on a regular basis, moving your bodies on a regular basis, eating whole foods on a regular basis, that's the stuff that goes the longest in terms of trying to mitigate cardiovascular disease, trying to mitigate some metabolic conditions, some of these more prevalent things that bring people into the hospital system. So awesome. And then now I wanted to transition a little bit to what you're up to now. You've talked to us a little bit about your life coaching business, but could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. So, with life coaching, I'm a life coach for women professionals and physicians. My clients are high achieving women that have a lot of different things on their plate. Maybe they are still doing clinical work, they're running their businesses, they're running a household, trying to manage X number of kids and a spouse and maybe a pet, and just trying to design their lives in such a way that feels fulfilling to them. And what we do through the DAMA method is we work through to see what your purpose is. Why are you doing the things that you're doing? Are they really aligning with your core values? And then taking the right action steps that will help you get to where you want to go. So I'll walk you through a little bit of that. D stands for driven, and that's the first letter of the DAMA method. So being driven means figuring out what is your compass, where is your North Star, getting clarity on specifically what outcome you're looking for, what really matters to you, what do you really want to achieve in your life. Once you get that clarity, ask yourself, why am I doing this? Why is this important to me? And ask yourself why over and over again until you get to that core reason. Once you become driven, you have to make sure that the goal that you've set out for yourself aligns with your values. Maybe your value is excellence. Maybe you want to make sure that you're serving your community. Maybe your value spending quality time with your family. Whatever matters most to you, you want to make sure that the goal you've set out for yourself matches that. And if it doesn't, then you need to adjust your goal. And then building momentum is probably the hardest, but the most fun part, because this is where the rubber hits the road. This is where you figure out, how am I going to make this happen? How am I going to make my ultimate vision come true? So you have to put together a plan, working backwards from where you want to be to where you are now, and make that plan so concrete that you know exactly the daily action steps that you need to take in order to get you to where you want to go. And this is the hardest part. Like I said, it's a lot of times there are a lot of friction and a lot of limiting beliefs and fears that stop us from pursuing what we really want to pursue. So we work through all of that using different mindset tools. But once we get to that, taking that first tiny action step, then the next step becomes so much easier. And this really helps build confidence. And eventually it changes your identity. You become a new person. You start thinking of new ideas. And the energy, the focus that you bring to your vision helps kind of bring more things and more ideas to it. So you really start to grow, and everything starts to snowball really fast. And that's the most exciting part, really. So working through the DAMA method in any area of your life helps you achieve the goals that you're looking for.
Amazing. And now that you've been coaching for a little while and working through with so many different women through this, are there any common themes that you found?
Yes, everybody says there's not enough time. I don't have enough time. But the reality is, each of us gets 24 hours in a day. So
Wow.
we all have the same amount of time. It's just about how we're using it. What are we dedicating our time to? Are we being intentional with all of the activities and things that we're doing throughout the day? Are we living in fulfillment, or are we just running on empty? There's a way to figure out what you want to do and adjust your schedule based on the things that fill up your cup. So that's what I help my clients realize, is that you have all of these goals and dreams and values, yet you're not doing any of that. You're focusing on this part of your life, and that's what's taking up the biggest chunk of your day. Is there a way that you can start shifting towards following things that you're more passionate about and really living your life with purpose? And it takes a while, especially because in the beginning, everyone's like, oh, but what am I going to do? I'm not going to have the safety blanket of having like a regular to income.
Yeah.
Or maybe they fear being judged. What's their family going to think of them? What are their colleagues going to think of them if they start stepping away from clinical work that doesn't fulfill them? But eventually, once you step into this new identity, you're overcoming these fears, and you build the confidence that you need to really transform your life and live your life on your terms, like the way you want it to live it.
Yeah, amazing. I think that's something that everyone feels sometimes, right? I mean, if not all the time, there's just not enough time. And I heard someone describe it this way, which I thought was really great. The time issue, if you feel like there's not enough time and there's not enough time to do all the things that you want, think of it more as just like a math problem, right? And it takes all of the emotions out of it. There's 24 hours in a day, as you said. And so if we schedule it and if we just think about it in terms of numbers, we should spend 7 to 8 of that sleeping, maybe, right?
Yeah.
So let's say we have 16 left, and putting the most important things first. So if that's time with family, if that's rest time, because when we don't rest and we just go all day, then we're probably not as productive and we're not as effective as we want to be at whatever it is we're spending the rest of the day doing. Some time with friends, whatever it is that really, really fills your cup, working out, right? Exercising our bodies, moving our bodies, some time just to buffer for the things that do come up. If we need to take our car in to get an oil change, anything like life's tasks so that they don't build up. And then the remainder of that is really what you have left, right? So do you want to spend it on this part of work? Do you want to split it between work and some other things? And at the end of that, inevitably, there was a whole list of things that didn't make it onto the calendar. And just this realization that I think a lot of people have so many interests. We have lots of things that we're passionate about. I would love to go to brunch. I'd love to play tennis with a friend. There's so many things that I could fill my time with that sound great and sound meaningful, but they're not all going to make it on the calendar, and that's okay. But what we really want to do intentionally is prioritize the stuff that matters the most. So if I never, get to pick up a hobby that sounds fun. A lot of my friends are like playing mahjong right now. And if I never learn that, right? I at least had the time with my kids. I at least have gone on for a run that week. And really just prioritizing, like you're saying, where we're spending our times. If people are feeling like, man, I'm running out of time and I don't have time to do the things that I want to do, thinking it more of like a prioritization exercise. And when we prioritize the things that matter the most, understanding that there's probably always other things that we like and we can fit them in, at different points of life. But as long as we're getting the main points, the main values in, then we'll probably feel a little bit lighter.
Exactly. And when you do prioritize, you focus on the things that matter most to you. And inevitably, that does take away from something else.
Yeah.
So there's always that trade off. You just have to figure out where is the time that you want to spend most? Where are you going to spend that?
Yeah. And then for your investors, right, where is the opportunity cost? And you can think about that in time as well. We can think about that with capital. And if you put money or capital towards one investment, what's the opportunity cost of what you could have done with that same capital? It's the same with time. If you spend your time in any way, if that's answering an email, getting on a call, going for a jog, spending time with your significant other, what's the opportunity cost? And I think that's another framework where we realize, well, man, if I'm going to spend 2 more extra hours, say at work or whatever it is today, that's 2 less hours that I get with my kids, or that's 2 less hours that I get with my significant other. And then you get to make those decisions through a different framework. And sometimes that can be helpful.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely.
Awesome. All right. So for this next segment, I love this. So this is a walk through your day. And I do this to really just help give the listeners ideas, a way we can integrate some of these fun things into our lives. And I think it's a really good way that we learn from each other, right? What are other people doing? And then is that something that resonates with me that I could potentially integrate as well? So we can kind of just really start from the beginning. And can you tell me what sleep looks like for you?
Yeah. So sleep. Great question. That's actually an area that I personally struggle with a little bit
Yeah.
because I do have a 1-year-old at home and he's not a great sleeper. We've tried a lot of different things. And you have to just roll with the punches. So for me, what I've done to help adjust for that, to make sure that I am getting the hours that I need for my sleep, is going to bed early.
Mhm.
Most nights it looks like 8 or 8:30 in the evening. And then we wake up multiple times throughout the night. And I sleep until about 4:45, closer to that 5 a.m. mark. So that still overall gets me the cumulative number of hours that I need for sleep. But also to help mitigate that, we do take travel and we take turns kind of sleeping with the baby in a different room when we're traveling. And so that really helps offload the caregiver who suffered many sleepless nights. So there are ways to always make sure that one of us is getting the sleep that we need. So sleep, I get about 8 hours, more or less, broken up into different segments. But yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. So that's sleep. And then you've already talked a little bit about your morning, but what does the rest of your morning typically look like? So we're up at 5 a.m. and then you do your power hour.
Yes, my power hour. And then I'd love to talk about what I do with my kids because now that I've fully stepped into the stay-at-home mom role for the majority of my time, I have little strategies and little habits that I do with them that I think your listeners could benefit from. So I have a 6-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 1-year-old. And for my 6 and 3-year-olds, I like to always get them to, when they're getting dressed, to choose their own t-shirt or choose their own shorts for school. And I give them a choice. I said, you have this green t-shirt or the blue one. Which one do you want to choose? And whatever one they choose, it doesn't even matter. But what that gives them is that sense of autonomy that they are making the decision on their own. And then they're able to make that decision on their own again with their shorts. So building those small habits, building that autonomy early on in these early stages of their lives actually goes a really long way. Next, we sit down for breakfast and I like to play a little game with them. So it's a questions game. So I give them a clue about an animal that I'm thinking about. And if they guess it right, they have to take a bite. And usually it's something very simple and easy. So it helps motivate them to take multiple bites at a time. Then we have a whiteboard that we use. And on the whiteboard, we write out the activities that we have planned for that day. And we put a little box next to each one so that when we're done with each activity, we can check off that box. So breakfast, school, playground, swimming, whatever it is. And that gives them that extra sense of responsibility too, that they have to check off that box once the activity is complete. After that, in the evenings, we like to go around and answer this one question. We say, what is one thing that you did today that helped somebody else? And usually they share a scenario or situation that happened at school where they were kind to another friend and they helped them. And that kind of helps refocus their mind to being grateful for the little small moments in their day. And I really like to do that during dinner. After dinner, before bedtime, we do some gratitude work. So we have a candle that we pass around. And when it's your turn, you're holding the candle, you have to say one thing that you're grateful for. I've had my kids say things like, I'm grateful for the desk. Something so totally random, but it's nice to hear that because it's nice that there's a desk there, that you did your homework on the desk, so it is still important to even pick out the small objects in the house that you could be grateful for. It doesn't have to be a feeling or a moment or the family that you're grateful for. And then to wrap up our evening, one other thing that we do is we like to write one sentence in our journals about something that we remember from today, something good that has happened. And this writing exercise takes a little while for my 6-year-old, and my 3-year-old doesn't do this. But it really, again, helps him make journaling part of his regular daily routine. So really doing all of these different things in a day, the whole purpose of that is to help the kids become autonomous and become their own problem solvers. I don't want them coming to me with every single problem that they have. I'd want them to really figure it out on their own and come up with different ideas, different options of how they can solve this problem. So that's really our biggest goal, is to train them to become independent in that way.
Amazing. There's so many little things there. Can you break down the breakfast and the questions? I want to try this.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have different themes. So for
Okay.
example, if we talk about an animal, that's usually the main one that they really like. So I'd say, okay, now it's time to play Guess the Animal. I'm going to give you some questions. These are going to be your clues. And if you can guess this animal, you have to take a bite. So first clue, this animal likes to climb trees. And they say like, oh, like monkey or like whatever. I'm like, nope, this animal is green and it likes to bathe in the sun. And then they're like, oh, it's a lizard. So, they guess it right. And that's when they have to take a bite of their food. And then the next clue would be a little bit harder, something that they would guess after maybe 3 questions. And then the next one would be something that they would instantaneously guess. Like this animal is red and it has this insect is red and it has black dots on it. It's like a ladybug,
Yeah.
and this really kind of excites them and they just like keep taking the bites because they want to know what the next question is going to be and what the next clue is for the animal.
That's genius. I love that. I'm going to try that. We run into power struggles sometimes where they come home from school, especially breakfast isn't too bad, but especially for dinner time, they come home from school and I can never tell, did they just eat a ton for lunch? Did they get, too many snacks or something afterwards? But with dinner, sometimes it's really hard to get them to eat a whole lot. Or I think the other thing is they're so excited to be home that they just want to play with all their toys. And then they try and leave. So I'm gonna try this game. I'll let you know how it goes. But I think they would love it.
One more tip, if you want to try to get your kids to vacuum the house, here's something that I like to do. So really make any housekeeping task into a game. So with vacuuming, my 6-year-old started liking vacuuming because I put those little like IKEA pencils, like a little small pencil in a corner of each room that I want him to vacuum. And vacuums each corner, he has to pick up the pencil and put it in his pocket. And that's kind of his like little gold medal for vacuum area. Sometimes he gets distracted, at least in the beginning he did. He's like, oh, a pencil, I found a pencil. I'm like, no, you still have to vacuum. But really just making it into a game or having them, clean up the play area, all of the toys in the play area at the end of the day. How do you do that? Well, I put a timer on my phone and I say, hey, you have 2 minutes to clean everything up. Ready, set, go. And then just like they're starting to clean up. They're like, oh my goodness, we're going to run out of time. The timer's going to go off. And really they get so excited about trying to beat that 2-minute time frame and faster and faster. So as long as it's fun, you can get them to do like any household task.
Yeah. I will say, so my son loves vacuuming, and we had one of those toy Dyson vacuums that looked like the real adult version, but he was getting so frustrated that it wasn't picking up a lot. And so actually for this last Christmas, he's 4, we got him like a real like adult cordless vacuum. But this one is so cool because the handle telescopes and it also stands upright by itself. And so it's actually his height and it's like 5 pounds or something. So it's light enough for a 4-year-old to be able to maneuver because he kept trying to take my Dyson vacuum, which was like a little too heavy for him and just so awkwardly long. But this is so perfect. And because it's in his playroom, sometimes I find myself reaching for it when it's like really close and it actually works well. So that's been really fun to try and get him to do things. Okay, so we talked a little bit about the physical health pillar. We'll go to the cognitive health. So we live in a pretty fast-paced world. What are some things that help you stay grounded or help you manage stress when you feel overwhelmed?
Oh, there's so many things. I'm going to focus on meditation. Meditation has actually transformed my life. I meditate for 10 minutes every night, and I've made it a very consistent habit. And honestly, I have been feeling so much more calm. I don't like start exploding at my kids whenever they draw with crayons all over the walls. I really take the time to breathe, pause, and try to figure out what is the right thing to say that is not going to make them feel like they've just completely destroyed the house. So meditation has really been a huge component in helping me stay more calm and less anxious. Other than meditation, I really like breath work. That is also something that's helped me a lot. I like to do it in the morning, or even when I don't have time in the morning, I like to also do it during my commute when I have to drop off the kids at school and pick them up. Breath work, we kind of take it for granted, and there's lots of different ways to breathe, different techniques out there. What I like to do is take 4 deep breaths in through the nose and then 4 exhales. And this is a technique that's taught by Tony Robbins. And it really helps you get into a good state of mind. It gives you more clarity and you're able to focus on the things that you need to focus on. So it just looks like this. So if you do this over and over and over again for, let's say, 10, 15 minutes, you might start to get lightheaded initially, but over time, it really helps you stay grounded and brings you back to gaining that clarity and focus that you need throughout your day. And then also journaling is so key. And I do this through my newsletter journal. I write down the things that I want to write down once a week and then make that into a newsletter so I can share that with others. Because I think if you don't share the things that are going on in your life and lessons that you've learned, things that really helped you get through your day, it kind of goes to waste. Like you want to be able to serve others as much as you can. Albert Einstein says it well. He says, try not to become a person of success, but rather try to become a person of value. And that's exactly what I want to do, is to keep serving my community and just spreading the word and getting the knowledge out there.
Yeah. Amazing. Amazing. Yeah. And so for those of you who are not watching the video, but just listening, that was like quick 4 inhales followed by quick 4 exhales just to get you feeling a little bit grounded. Journaling's fantastic. So many good things that a lot of people have found a lot of benefit from. How do relationships play a role in your health?
The quality of your relationships is the quality of your life. Again, another quote by Tony Robbins. I think that's probably the most important thing that we sometimes tend to overlook, is how we interact with others, how much time we spend, how present we are with them. A lot of times we're like thinking about work or thinking about other things, but we're not being there in the moment and sharing that laughter, sharing those emotions together. So meditation has actually helped me come back to that present moment and really cherish it and nourish my relationships with my kids, with my spouse, with my friends, and then, of course, beyond that as well. So I think this is like a huge topic, and there's so many things that we can do to really help connect better with our loved ones. But one small tip that I will say is try to blend your personal and professional life as much as you can. For example, if you're traveling somewhere for a conference, for PIMDCon, for example, if it's possible, take your family with you and really make it a family trip. And then kind of show your kids what are some of the things that you're doing, or who are some of the people that you're meeting. And the more you get them involved like that, the better they're going to understand what it is that you're really doing in your life. Like, what does work look like for my mom, or what does work look like for my dad? Another thing that we did, something local, is that during the holidays, when it was winter holidays, we bought a bunch of pizzas and we brought that to my husband's hospital where he works in the critical care unit. And we had our kids dress up as elves and deliver the pizzas in a little trolley. And everyone loved it, just having them there, smiling, bringing the pizza to the nurses. It was such a great time. So really try to incorporate your personal and professional life in the ways that you can. It's not always going to be possible, but wherever there is an opportunity, try to blend those two together.
Very cool. I bet that was the most adorable pizza delivery anyone's seen. So fun. Very cool. So moving on to financial health, how do you think about time freedom in your life?
Financial health is a great topic because there's so many components to it. I think the best thing that you can do is create multiple streams of income for yourself, whether that's coming from your clinical work or investing in different things, stocks, bonds, real estate is a big one. We have a real estate investment, and it takes courage to really step into that realm, especially when you're not familiar with how it works and how a property can be profitable.
Mm-hmm.
Once you gain that knowledge and those skills and you connect with people who have done it before, try to get them to help you out, give little tips here and there, and almost like mentor you through this journey, it becomes such a valuable asset and such a great way to make that extra money on the side.
Yeah.
And building your business is a huge commitment, but it also can be very profitable in the long term. And spreading the word, whenever you meet somebody, just tell them what you do. Say, hey, I'm a life coach. I love coaching women physicians and professionals, and I use the DAMA framework to do that. And the more people hear about it, the more they can spread the word as well. And you just never know who's going to be your next client.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. And then last question, what is one way that you're currently investing in yourself?
Ooh. I think the biggest investment is my health and my physical fitness, because that's really made a huge difference in my life. Carving out that time every day to exercise, to just focus on me and not having to, check my emails and do all of the little to-dos on my task list. So physical health, getting that exercise time, making sure that I stick to my magic hour and I'm consistent with that, because that helps with my emotional health and my focus. And then, like I've mentioned, meditating, journaling, all of those things put together add up and they make a huge difference.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, this has been so fun. So great. Thank you so much for coming on. If people are interested in reaching out to you or finding you, what's the best place to do that?
You can visit my website, coacholgamd.com. You can book a free discovery call to see if one-on-one coaching is the right fit for you. And other ways to get in touch with me are through Instagram, again, Coach Olga MD, Facebook, Coach Olga MD, and LinkedIn. I'm under Olga Deengar.
Thank you. And we'll put links to all that. So thank you so much, Olga. I am so excited to see what you do next.
Thank you, Akshita. It's so great to be here, and I'm so happy that you're doing this. I mean, you are one of the most hardworking people that I know, and you're always trying to find new ideas, new creative ways to help bring knowledge to people, and I think you're doing amazing work. I really admire that.
Oh, thank you. That's so sweet. It's amazing watching you and all the things that you're doing as well. And it's been fun doing the journey with you too. We chat a lot about little things that come up, and there's a lot of similarities of building something. So thank you. Thanks for being that partner.
Of course.
Thanks for tuning in to Dive into Health MD. Our goal is to empower you with knowledge to better understand how your daily choices influence your health. If you enjoyed this episode, consider sharing it and subscribing so you don't miss what's next. Please remember, this podcast is intended for educational purposes only and should not be considered medical advice. For personalized guidance, always consult your physician or a qualified healthcare professional. Wishing you physical, cognitive, and financial wealth. See you in the next episode.